Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
Good evening. It's Tuesday, November 2nd. Thank you for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. We begin with some breaking news. Kids ages 5 to 11 can get vaccinated as soon as tomorrow. A CDC committee recommended Pfizer's COVID-19 shots, and the agency's director just signed off. Here's KPBS reporter Kitty Alvarado.
After a lengthy meeting, the Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices, or ACIP, recommended children ages 5 to 11 get the Pfizer COVID vaccine. This would make the vaccine one step closer to becoming available to 28 million children across the U.S., 300,000 right here in San Diego County.
I'm excited. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to get my 8-year-old vaccinated as soon as they're available. Relief, really. I've been ready for a long time.
Lisa Payton, who has 2 daughters, says she's been waiting for this news for months. They've already had a scare at their daughter's school.
And it was scary. We were on edge. We're like, oh my God, she's sitting right next to this little girl who tested positive for COVID.
Dr. Christian Ramers with the Family Health Centers of San Diego says the approval doesn't mean children can get the vaccine immediately because it's different from the adult dose.
It's a slightly different formulation. It has a longer shelf life, and the vials themselves are different. So it's not so easy just to say, oh, I'll just take a third of the adult dose. So they've actually, required smaller needles and smaller vials.
He says the rare side effect, myocarditis, which some believe is linked to puberty hormones, will be carefully tracked by the CDC and FDA.
That, I think, is something everyone's going to be watching, including the parents that are really on the fence right now.
Raymer says this decision is a game changer for combating the virus.
I know pediatricians across the country are absolutely excited because they've been seeing the suffering of the kids that actually end up in the hospital, those that go on with long-term symptoms. And then we've also known for quite some time that children can serve as vectors and can actually transmit the disease. Personally, I've taken care of 2 people that I can remember off the top of my head who have died because of COVID brought into the household from a child who brought it from school.
He urges parents to go to their pediatricians with questions about the vaccine, not the internet. Kitty Alvarado, KPBS News.
The fight over COVID-19 vaccine mandates is heating up across government agencies as deadlines to get shots have ended or are in sight. Reporter Isabel Rosales breaks down the headbutting from coast to coast and the new impending ruling from the Labor Department.
Escalating tensions over COVID-19 vaccine mandates.
We're pro-vaccine, we're just anti-mandate.
In New York City, a spike of sick call-outs. About 2,300 firefighters out since the vaccine mandate went into effect Monday. Mayor Bill de Blasio warns there will be consequences.
The folks who are faking it are doing an immense disservice to the people of the city and to their fellow members of service.
The city now investigating whether the firefighters union coordinated a protest sick-out.
The assertion that thousands of firefighters are faking on medical leave, we reject. The staffing issues in this city are not germane to medical leave.
Despite the battle over mandates, de Blasio says they work. In the last 13 days, 24,000 more city workers got the shot. About 92% of city employees have received at least 1 dose. So far, less than 3% of the city's workforce is on unpaid leave for refusing to comply. The mayor insists New Yorkers remain safe with no service disruption. Los Angeles County Sheriff refusing to enforce a vaccine mandate on county employees, including his deputies.
We have to provide public safety, and right now I'm severely understaffed as it is. To throw this on top of that, you're really tempting the hand of fate.
In Washington, Isabel Rosales, KPBS News.
The Alpine Unified School District became the first in San Diego County to offer COVID-19 booster shots to staff today. The Pfizer shot was made available to faculty and staff. Amanda Keller, a 7th grade science teacher, was among those who got the booster shot. She says she did it to protect her students, especially those with medical conditions.
I would not want anything to happen to one of my students because I have students that have different health issues, and we never know what someone has, so you never know. As somebody who lost my grandpa to COVID this summer, it was personal.
And according to the latest district numbers, they have 0 active cases among their roughly 200 employees. Among students, there are 4 active cases out of more than 1,500 children. The superintendent says they plan to hold vaccination events for students as well. The Cajon Valley Union School District announced today that all 22 students and their parents who were stuck in Afghanistan have made it out. In a press release, the district announced that the final family is on their way home with the help of NGOs and government officials. The district adds that it looks forward to seeing the last few students in their classrooms very soon. And it urged the U.S. government to take action to bring all other U.S. citizens home as well. Parents in Oceanside are gathering right now to protest. They're making their feelings known before tonight's school board meeting, where officials are set to vote on proposals that could bring big changes to some of its schools. KPBS North County reporter Tanya Thorne tells us some parents feel the plans target schools serving mostly students of color.
The Oceanside School Board is considering 2 plans that include remodeling schools in need of repairs, consolidating 2 schools into 1, and potentially closing schools. The changes come after the district reported a decline in school enrollment and a need to make budget cuts. Natalie Sanchez is a parent at Libby Lake Elementary, one of the schools involved. She's also the president of the school's parent-teacher organization.
Anytime there's been a cut, financial cut, they've come after our school. So we do feel like, Libby's the stepchild of the district. We're the furthest brown school from the district, so it's easier to target.
Sanchez says parents felt blindsided because the district didn't consult them about the possible changes that impact a large number of low-income families of color. The district did put out an online survey. Sanchez says she took it on herself to print the survey to pass out to parents who were unaware of the district's plans.
Our parents aren't very vocal. We have a lot of parents that don't speak English, aren't very high-techy, so we're easier to target.
Del Rio Elementary, Libby Lake Elementary, and Surfside Academy are the schools taking the biggest brunt from the changes. Some of the schools are located in areas of Oceanside where gangs have a history of rivalry, and that's a concern for youth advocates. Jimmy Figueroa is the program manager of Resilience, a nonprofit that mentors at-risk youth on probation. He says shuffling students around to a new area and a new school could result in gang violence or students dropping out of school.
I don't think everyone on the board understands Oceanside to this depth or understands a lot of our marginalized low-income communities of color to this depth. And if they did, they would have never considered it. And if they do, then that's even more egregious because it shows that they don't care.
The Oceanside Unified School Board declined our request for an interview about the plans. The board is scheduled to hold a special meeting about the proposals tonight at 6. Parents are planning a rally outside of the district before the meeting. Tanya Thorne, KPBS News.
President Biden says historic progress was achieved at the UN climate conference. He highlighted new efforts to stop methane leaks, protect forests, invest in new technologies, and spend money on clean energy. But he also had a warning.
I'm worried. I'm worried if we don't continue to move forward and make the kind of progress we're now making, that it's going to, we throw into jeopardy the prospect that we're going to be able to keep the temperature from rising above 1.5 degrees Celsius.
Local climate watchers are concerned the talks at the International Conference of Parties in Scotland are not focused on the action it will take to stave off severe global warming impacts. Here's KPBS environment reporter Eric Anderson.
San Diego researcher Veerapadran Ramanathan says San Diego is already experiencing the impact of rising global temperatures, and he worries how people will cope He says immediate and drastic actions are needed to keep global warming from getting dramatically worse.
Even if you ask the most, gung-ho person, we are going to bring down the climate change, it's going to take us at least 20 years, if not 30 years, to bring down the emissions to below 10%. I don't think we're ever going to get it to zero.
Ramanathan urged world leaders, including the Pope, to make climate change a priority, but he's losing faith.
And I'm also, honestly, quite a bit disillusioned with these meetings. There are a lot of talks, not substance, okay? We are going to come with some, meaningful things, but nothing commensurate to the problem we are facing.
New research out of UCLA already blames most of the Western wildfire behavior on climate change. The study says the atmosphere is drying out landscapes, and that's just one impact. Climate Central's science director, Andrew Pershing, says San Diego's average temperature could climb 6 degrees by the end of the century if carbon emissions aren't cut sharply.
That's a very different climate than what many people in San Diego grew up in. If we can limit warming to 1.5 degrees, then San Diego is looking at only about another degree Fahrenheit warming. And so it's a very similar world to the one that we have right now.
California has some aggressive goals aimed at reducing the amount of carbon released into the air, but achieving a carbon-neutral economy by 2050 might come too late to have a significant impact on warming. Eric Anderson, KPBS News.
Mayor Todd Gloria is talking climate change in Washington, D.C. today. He's taking part in the 2021 Aspen Security Forum, which meets every year to focus on national security and foreign policy. Gloria will specifically be focusing on the city's sanctions on climate change, which he says is a national security issue. He is laying the plans for the city's Our Climate, Our Future initiative, which he announced last week. San Diego County supervisors are considering a plan to open a new regional film office. KPBS reporter Melissa May talked with locals who work in the film industry to learn how this new office could benefit the community and support San Diego film and arts.
It's really crucial that there be government support for these type of things.
Ethan Vontillo is the founder of Media Arts San Diego and the San Diego Latino Festival. A regional film office would bring all the necessary resources for production under one roof.
So a company from LA or wherever can call that office, and then that person in that office will help them get the right licenses and permits that they need to film on a beach, to film in a mountain, to film in the desert. And it's a kind of one-stop shop.
Vontillo describes what it was like having a San Diego Film Commission before it went dormant in 2013.
It was a place that brought in local production and production from across the country, international production that helped create TV shows, narrative feature film production.
The lack of a regional film office also affected aspiring creatives.
I didn't know who to really go to get gigs. I didn't have a good idea or foundation of where I could go, who I could talk to in order to be on a set in general.
Patricia Quimzon is currently a senior television, film, and media major at San Diego State University. She says this office could help others to navigate the industry.
That'd be just so much more accessible to people who want to actually do production work, who want to be on a set, who want to be a great asset to any sort of production. That would be so beneficial.
Bringing television and movie productions back to San Diego benefits the whole economy.
This is a really complex industry. It's a very expensive city. So creating any jobs here is incredible. And if you've seen the budgets on some of these films, they're huge. A lot of money could be brought to San Diego. A lot of money could be spent here.
The Film Consortium San Diego founder Jody Silly also emphasizes how productions market our city to the whole world and future productions.
The impact of having San Diego seen on a big screen, pretty much, it's hard to count the value there, but just thinking about that long-term return through the tourism.
The Film Consortium already has a robust talent and crew directory.
If we can all work together, I think that's the best possible case scenario. The word consortium, right, is a group of businesses working towards a similar goal, towards a shared goal, and that shared goal is a film industry in San Diego.
The Board of Supervisors is set to vote on the policy later today. Melissa May, KPBS News.
It may be an off-year election, but the decisions voters make today could have major ramifications for the political landscape across the country. Reporter Chris Nguyen runs down some of the big races and issues on the ballot nationwide.
Election day in the U.S. The results of these off-year races potentially providing roadmaps to the 2022 midterms and the 2024 presidential contest. In Virginia, national focus on a statewide race. Former Democratic Governor Terry McAuliffe seeking the office again.
And I'm running again. I got big, bold plans of where I want to take this state. Really nice to see you.
But is facing a tight contest against Republican business executive Glenn Youngkin.
I've just felt this great surge of momentum for the last 6 to 8 weeks.
In New Jersey, Governor Phil Murphy aims for a second term, but it's been more than 40 years since a Democratic incumbent governor won re-election there.
What we've been doing for the past 4 years is working, and that folks want to see more of it.
Other races include mayoral elections in some of America's biggest cities. In New York City, Brooklyn Borough President and former police captain Eric Adams is widely seen as the frontrunner. And in Boston, history will be made with either Michelle Wu or Anissa Essaibi George becoming the city's first woman and person of color to be elected.
I'm a mom with kids in our schools. I live in a multi-generational home. I've been in City Hall for 10 years now, seeing just how much power we have when city government steps up and connects with our communities.
Eyes also on Minneapolis as voters face a referendum on police reform following the May 2020 murder of George Floyd. In Washington, Chris Nguyen, KPBS News.
If you have been waiting to make changes to your health coverage, now's the time. Covered California, which sells individual health plans, has started its open enrollment for 2022. Depending on where you live, 12 insurance companies will be selling plans that could offer substantial discounts on your premiums. Open enrollment runs through the end of January. San Diego County supervisors today approved a framework for ending homelessness. The long-term plan has 5 elements. They include approaches centered on people and driven by data, along with collaboration with other jurisdictions, service providers, and community partners, and ensuring housing stability through financial investments as well as racial and social equity. The county will seek state funding and continue to use American Rescue Plan Act money. For people getting out of jail or recovery centers, reintegration back into society can be a tough journey. KPBS North County reporter Tanya Thorne introduces us to a nonprofit helping recently released individuals with support and jobs.
On his days off, Nick Saldana gets ready to hit the waves. But life for Saldana wasn't always so sweet, as he says.
Couch surfing, doing anything I got to do to get money. No matter what it was, as far as stealing stuff from stores to eat, to going to different friends' house, seeing if they had food or whatever it was. So just couch surf life, basically.
A final robbery and a tarnished record got Saldana 9 years in prison.
But now I would see people coming back in like 2 or 3 times before I'd even get out. Like they'd be in there, I'd be in there for like a year. 3 years later, they come back and they're like, "You're still here?" And I'm like, "Yeah, you're back." What the
Saldana didn't want to be back. He completed his sentence by staying busy with fire camp, working out, and looking ahead to leaving his past behind. When Saldana was released, he got a job at a grocery store. It helped him pay rent and buy a car, but he wasn't happy.
Wake up at 4 or 5, go skate to work. If it was raining, to the like skating to the bus in the rain, to showing up soaking wet, having to work in a dairy cooler and stuff like that, and they didn't care.
That's when he got connected with Tim Lambesis, the founder of a nonprofit called Reintegration. It serves people who've served time or have left recovery programs by helping them get jobs. He helped Saldana get a stage crew job for TV shows and events, something he enjoys.
Really, you just have to like go and just look for a job, like reach out to a bunch of different people every single day, apply everywhere, and sooner or later, like it's gonna come. You know, it just depends on how fast and how motivated like the person is, you know.
Lambesis is the lead singer of the musical group As I Lay Dying. In 2014, Lambesis pled guilty for attempting to hire someone to murder his wife at the time.
Because it's not really something I can like defend or explain in a way that somebody's gonna be like, "Oh, I get it," because it doesn't make sense to me. It's not like a logical place in my life, you know, just like a dark spot in my life.
Lambesis says he lives with regret every day.
Something I wish I could take back every day, but it's nothing I can really do to take it back so much as I can just show that that was a very isolated moment in my life The only way to prove that is by the way I live my life going forward.
While he was in prison, Lambesis got a degree in addiction counseling.
But a lot of the guys that I was incarcerated with, they didn't have the family support, the friends were not positive influences, and they might not have come out of prison with a particular job skill. So I really wanted to help guys have all three of those resources.
Reintegration works with different companies looking to hire and willing to give people a chance. They offer resume support and mock interviews to help them secure the job.
A lot of these guys are just more than capable on their own of getting a job, and they have, they have skills. They just need that support system. And other guys need to actually develop the skills, so they need to maybe come into like a lower level job temporarily, work their way up so that they can have something that starts out like on the minimum wage level, but eventually can become a career.
Lambesis says everyone is facing different things, and the organization has to take every case by case. But by offering support and helping people find a sustainable job, Lambesis says they are reducing recidivism and preventing old patterns from repeating.
These are people that have been through things, and a lot of times very heartbreaking things. And so I think as we give some of these guys and hopefully some girls as well a chance to tell their stories, that not only validates like what they've been through, but helps some of these employers see that these are great people that have done a bad thing, not bad people.
This is Reintegration's first year of operation, and they've helped 13 people so far. Their office in Carlsbad opens later this month. Lambesis hopes the organization can grow their staff, employment opportunities, and the number of people they help.
I think a little bit of the narrative is changing, especially around addiction. But then with incarceration, it's like people are often defined by this worst moment in their life. And I personally feel like people are so much more than that.
Tanya Thorne, KPBS News.
Whatever you have planned for this evening, you might want to bring a jacket. It's feeling a lot like fall, with some places dipping into the 40s tonight. Jessica Pash has the forecast.
The onshore flow continues here across Southern California over the next several days, which means we may have a little bit of morning cloud cover, but that should give way to some bright and sunny afternoons. And it's looking to stay dry here, no rain in the forecast. Temperature-wise, we could see a little bit of a warm-up over the next couple of days, but we're only talking a couple degrees here, so it's not going to make a whole lot of difference here moving forward. Temperatures as we head into tonight fall back down into the low 50s for you in Oceanside, upper 50s in Borrego Springs, El Cajon 52, Ramona getting down into the 40s there. And then Wednesday, we're watching as some late day rain arrives across Northern California, but big ridging pattern kind of continues here beyond that, and that's going to mean warm and dry weather continues for most. Temperature-wise for your Wednesday, we're looking at 80s in Ramona, low 60s for you in the mountains, Chula Vista getting up to 71, San Diego 71 for you too. Thursday, dry and pleasant across much of the southwest. That dip in the jet stream here really only impacting places across the northwest. Here in the southwest, it's looking like a pleasant, dry day. No complaints here for our Thursday. Near the coast, staying pretty seasonable for this time of year with highs in the low 70s. Again, a little bit of morning fog giving way to some sunshine there in the afternoon. Further inland, temperatures go from the upper 70s into the low 80s Thursday, Friday. And then we dip back down into the 70s as we head into the weekend. So not a whole lot of change here in the forecast moving forward. In the mountains, low 60s on the board for you from Wednesday all the way through Sunday. Plenty of sunshine here in the forecast. No rain, and again, just mainly sunny. Not a whole lot of complaints here in the forecast. In the deserts, we'll see temperatures slightly warm up, perhaps getting up into the 90s on Friday, but overall looking to stay in the upper 80s. For KPBS News, I'm meteorologist Jessica Pash.
And here's another look at today's top stories. The CDC director has given the final go-ahead to administer Pfizer's COVID-19 vaccine for all children ages 5 to 11. The first vaccinations for that age group can start tomorrow morning. Pfizer has already begun shipping millions of doses to states, doctors' offices, and pharmacies. The kids-sized shots contain just a third of the dose given to teens and adults. And tonight, the Oceanside Unified School District will consider some proposals for changes at several of its campuses, including mergers and possible closures. The changes are a response to declining enrollment and budget troubles. Many parents say they felt blindsided because the district didn't consult them about the possible changes, although it did put out an online survey. The district declined a request for comment. And here's a look at what we're working on for tomorrow in the KPBS newsroom. On Morning Edition, we check in on San Diego County's COVID-19 contact tracing program. And then on Midday Edition, what the expansion of outdoor dining in the city of San Diego means for diners.
I'm Judy Woodruff. Tonight on the NewsHour, voters head to the polls in crucial contests that may hold clues for next year's nationwide races. Coming up at 7 after Evening Edition on KPBS.
6 months in space apparently does nothing for your cravings. NASA astronaut and UCSD alumna Megan MacArthur just had to have her tacos. Space tacos at that. On Friday, she tweeted out these photos of her food made with state-of-the-art peppers. The hatch chilies are part of an experiment grown on the International Space Station. NASA researchers spent 2 years testing other pepper variations before landing on the hatch green chili peppers. But that's not the first time MacArthur got to enjoy treats in space. On her 50th birthday, back in August, a SpaceX cargo delivery brought her some ice cream. Perfect with tacos. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Good night.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley. And by the following: by viewers like you. Thank you.